And the thing about that is it's also before the date range, June 1 to August 8, 2011. So we're talking about a possible variance at the beginning of the date range to which the representative testified, and a definite variance with the 8 additional affidavits with no petitions being filed with them on August 9th, the day after he testifies. He's already picked these things up. And it cannot be argued that that date range is not integral to the case, because he was testifying that these were valid. These were valid, even though I didn't do all of this. Even though I have the defects on, it's valid and it stands valid. And I mean, there's possibly more information if you have anything more that you would like to interject.
Well, the other thing I wanted to get on the record that we did not say is that we did obtain that Representative Mahoney had submitted a voucher for petitions, for the printing of petitions for a potential referendum on school consolidation 4/29/2011.
Yes, it is
So
right
what
here,
we're also just
429.
questioning is, okay, here arrive these petitions that don't have dates, an area for dates set opposite names, a date for printing, and at the, how did these even, I understand there might be some confusion over what referendum petitions should or shouldn't have, but if the authorizing law is read with the election code per the referendum handbook stating that such must be done to gain the other statutory requirements for petitions, then clearly, and Judge Warman even said that these other requirements are necessary. So the dates should have been on here. Now, it's one thing for the filer or initiators, the people, the citizens, to maybe not understand all of that. But for election officials, really meaning no disrespect, but, you are to go by your duty. And your duty is clearly spelled out in the referendum handbook to read the election code with the authorizing law that's presented, and then to gain a filing date, deadline, and to gain the other statutory requirements. So in an examination period, had one occurred, which one did not occur, it may have been possible that, having taken some time, that this would have been looked at more closely. And I don't know if that can ever be explained why an examination period of the Board of Election members did not occur, because there were 3 attorneys who were appointed to that board. And maybe attorneys with advice, with other avenues to explore, could have looked at, maybe second or third time in Fayette County's history and made some other determinations, and that the burden may have at that time been placed where we believe, and we think that the law reflects that it should be, on the filers, on the initiators, because there is room to reject and return, and there is room to correct, but in the event that the petitions and affidavits are non-correctable, there's only one action that can be taken, and that is to have them remain with the filers. And then the filers are in the position of challenging the decision of the election board to have rejected. Then they can go to the Court of Common Pleas and argue that no, they should have accepted.
So when a filer brings in their petition, if on its face it is not a proper document, and in this case no dates in that 3rd column, at that point the election staff should say it does not meet the requirements, the general requirements. You need an affidavit circulator, and that should be the end of it. Okay, then it's incumbent on the petitioner, the filer, to do whatever he or she wishes to do. You just heard a few minutes ago where Attorney Hyde and Mary Wasser had said, well, we always do that. Okay, we help them out by giving them the affidavit. Well, number one, I've always had issues with that. It's not incumbent on our staff to do that. But if we as a county is going to say that our staff is to do that, then you should follow through. Okay, make sure it's the right document. Make sure you're consistent and you do it to all filers. And then, when you do give that document and it comes back, if you still, then we still have an obligation, we as the election staff still have an obligation to look at, okay, well, these did not have a date on, nor did it have an affidavit, a circulator. Now that we have it, look, there's a date range. How am I going to be able to tell whether or not this is accurate? Well, it's not the staff's position. But since they're the ones who gave the document to begin with, then they should look at it and say, that's questionable. Bring it to the attention of 3 of us, okay? And then we make that determination. And that's where you had the flawed fatal error. And then if that second thing would have happened, we wouldn't be here today. So we clearly have to correct.
And we did, I think, when we did this summary.
We clearly have to, number one, identify where all of the issues came up in this particular instance, and then to take action that it does not happen again. Okay, we have to address it. Not just simply saying, well, we corrected it by looking at the referendum and make that internal procedure, because you're asking us to look at a specific incident. That referendum is for future. We need to look at the specific incident. Look at the administrative actions of the election staff and make those corrections, okay? Not only as it pertains to that referendum handbook and criteria guidelines, but as the office as a whole, okay? And then in addition to that, we need to look at any of those items that are clearly outside of our jurisdiction that could or could not be determined to be fraudulent, and that is under the jurisdiction of the district attorney's office. So basically, if we had a quorum here, I would make 2 motions, okay? And then this matter would be ended.
And just to call your attention to the date on the voucher for the payment to State Representative Mahoney for the school consolidation petitions, $51.73 on 4/29. 4/29 allows for this then to be circulated in May. That's the importance of that date. And I, quite frankly, have interviewed people that told me that they signed in May. I'm not willing to divulge the names of those people at this time, but I have spoken to numerous people who have told me that by telephone interview.
Well, if you said you had individuals who signed on election day,
Right.
Clearly, election day is in June 1st through August 9th.
Right, exactly. It was May 17th.
Right.
And getting to the other portions of the time,
Are you
getting
going
back,
on a new issue?
no, getting back to the just going back to the timeline for a second. And the thing about it is that is somewhat nagging, is that because the petitions were submitted at 404 to 407, separate from the affidavits, other than the 2 at 412 from Clipper, that office had from